Hello again. So our next pose is, what is our next pose? Upavista Konasana. And so I'm going to take a blanket. If you'll notice, when I sit cross-legged, my knees are quite a bit higher than my hips, and I naturally am kind of a sloucher. And that is not because I'm lazy, but that is also true, but because my pelvis is a little bit tipped under. And so that will inhibit you and your students, if that is the case for you, when you're trying to forward fold, because you're sort of moving against the way your body is naturally built. And so we can add a little help by bringing a blanket and sitting on the very edge of it. So not sitting up on top, but sliding forward so that then the knees and the hips are in one straight line. So let me turn to the side so you guys can see that and see the difference. So if I just sit on top of this blanket, nothing changes. I have to slide all the way forward. It'll almost feel like you're not even on it. It's just a tiny little tilt forward, so then immediately I can feel my hips release and I'm able, or better able, to fold forward. So, Upavista Konasana is a seated, wide-legged forward fold. So I'm going to sit on the edge of a blanket, open my feet out as wide as I comfortably can with no pain or pulling behind the knees. So anytime we're stretching, we want to feel the stretch in the belly of the muscle, so in the center of the muscle. When we start to feel it in the joint, that's usually a cue that we're either hyperextending the joint or overstretching the muscle, or a combination of the two, and that's where we start to risk injury. So really pay attention to where you're feeling the sensations. And then sit up nice and tall, turn your toes straight up towards the sky, or even a little bit back towards your body, so your feet are nice and flexed. Legs are really active here. And then hinging from your hips. This is another one where you'll see people sort of pull the center of their spine back and try to reach forward. Instead, think about leading with your heart, hinging from your hips and planting your hands wherever they naturally are able to come. And so you'll have some students that look, something like this, very straight up, and that's fine. That could be due to tight hamstrings. It could be due to a tight or shortened lower back. You will also likely have students that can just lay all the way down on their belly because they're naturally built in such a way that that is very accessible to them. But most people will be somewhere in between. And the work is really just to keep the spine straight, the legs activated, and keep that nice alignment. And never trying to force or sort of muscle our way down into a deeper shape, but just very slowly allowing the body to open and to move deeper here. And then on an inhale, walk the fingertips in. So to come out, I like to bring the hands behind the knees and bend one and then the other first, and then walk the legs together. So again, just taking the tension out of the muscles before we make any sort of sudden movements. And so one other adjustment I'd like to show you for this pose, if someone's got really tight hamstrings, it might be helpful for them to have their knees slightly bent. So I'm actually going to take the blanket out from underneath me so that I can be even on both sides, and I'll just work really hard to keep my spine up straight. Okay, so I'm going to come back into my Upavista Konasana, but this time I've got blankets under my knees to take the tension out of my legs, and then I can start to fold forward here. So this will make it a lot more comfortable for you possibly, and definitely for many of your students.